Empowered Mind Therapy Center was born out of a sense of internalized resistance and internalized resilience during a time where there was so much and continues to be collective trauma in the world. And it's Empowered Mind Therapy Center's vision to create a community where folks feel seen and heard while we are experiencing, what is happening in the world together. So this space means community to me, and it means honoring those who came before us, those who are here with us on the journey right now, and who are on the same mission. I'm Vanessa Solis, the founder and CEO of Empowered Mind Therapy Center. I'm the second of 5 daughters to Mary and David Solis, and my ancestors on my mom's side are of the Igorot tribe, which is an indigenous tribe of the Philippines, and my ancestors on my dad's side are from Guerrero, Mexico.
What was it like for you growing up?
Yeah, while I have so much to be proud of, having roots, both Filipino roots and Mexican roots, I wasn't surrounded by the culture. I didn't have access to the pride that I do now. I grew up in a really small, predominantly white community where there weren't a ton of people that looked like me. And the ones that were, the few Filipinos or the few Mexicans, because I was mixed, I didn't really fit in, in those groups either per se ethnically. And, with the majority of kids who were all white, there was some low key and high key bullying. There was also a class dynamic in there where I was very aware of what me and my family didn't have. And so I remember growing up really longing for a sense of belonging.
Did going to college change things for you?
Absolutely. I remember growing up and feeling a sense of injustice that I didn't have the words for. And so when I went to college, I went to UCSB, go Gauchos. I studied sociology. And sociology really opened my eyes to understand why the world is the way that it is. I look back really fondly at my college years because, again, I think of it as a time where I was able to be myself out loud.
So how did you find yourself on this career path?
Yeah, so my last year in college, I was hired by a social justice organization. And I was so drawn to them because not only did I had my first big girl job, out of college, but I didn't know that there were people and organizations that cared about this kind of stuff, right? And again, I was just learning that how it all made sense. And there were people that were trying to do something about the injustice in the world, having real conversations about racism and sexism and homophobia and all those things. And I loved it. My EOP counselors at UCSB, they were like, "You're a social worker. Like you got to go. You got to go to grad school." And so I was in that field for about 10-ish years. It was amazing work, not only, from a heart place, but also from a professional development place. I was interfacing with law enforcement, with the school system, with hospitals, with the courts, mental health too at the time, with everything, and really having a sense of, how all these systems worked. And the more I learned how all the systems work, the more I knew that me, Vanessa, individually, couldn't do a ton to change it from within. I, again, was encouraged by a wonderful mentor to get licensed and to try out private practice. To build a business that is you, right? It can be really scary because not only are you like putting yourself out to the world, but I was also transitioning from a very stable job at the county, kind of a predictable, professional path. And this was something that, again, not everyone was doing. I didn't see a ton of people doing it. And it was to do therapy, which I actually hadn't done a ton of traditional therapy as well. A lot of my colleagues in social work would agree that they don't really actually teach us how to do therapy in grad school, right? Which sounds wild, but it's true. But I knew I could do it because I had probably been interfacing over the course of my career, have talked to thousands of people. Not only the client, different types of clients, but also, colleagues and folks, in different systems, and just really getting a sense of the work, how much is underneath the work is about relationships. That's what makes the work go, but it's the systems within, that aren't that helpful. And the more I was straddling both at the time, doing a small private practice on the side and still working at the county. And the more and more I was seeing my clients, and getting to work with them in the individual way that I wanted to, right? Without a court, without a system behind it, right? I fell in love with it.
When did Empowered Mind Therapy Center come to be?
Yeah, so I developed a wonderful solo practice. I was doing my thing, and as many recent stories go, then 2020 and the pandemic hit. And at the time, wow, even right now, just thinking about the time, I'm getting somewhat of chills or buzz in my body, because at that time I was pregnant with my first child. I was a trauma therapist, right? I was helping folks move through the fear and uncertainty of the pandemic, because at the time we had no idea what was going to happen, and it was infecting the world, right? Like it was a global pandemic, and there wasn't an end in sight at the time, and it was terrifying. It was terrifying. At the same time, there were these massive fires here in the Bay and all over California. Actually, there was this really scary day, I know many folks remember, where the sky was orange, and it was just, I remember doing therapy, looking outside and the sky being orange, and there was, this also racial trauma that was happening at the time. George Floyd was murdered, and there was lots of people protesting. There was a lot of anti-Asian hate around that time as well. And so for me, that time in my life, I really, really had that same kind of feeling of longing for community, longing for connection, because I just felt so alone. So I sought as much community online as I could. I had already gotten trained in EMDR, which was awesome. I found brain spotting training for BIPOC therapists only, and I had never heard of brain spotting before in my life, but I wanted access to that BIPOC only mental health space, and it was everything. It was everything I didn't know that I needed in terms of my confidence in myself as a clinician at the time, and connection with other clinicians at the time. And that was beautiful, but it was, only one training. Like, I still wanted more connection. I was, just like everybody else, missing the regular connection with humans, right? And I knew the work that I was doing was amazing. I knew the work that I was doing was important, especially at the time where we were at, right? And I knew I couldn't do it alone. I already felt so alone. And I wanted to do this work with people who understood that mental health work is also social justice work. And it's, therapy in that way is simply more an intimate way of doing that. So in 2021, I hired my first assistant. In the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of breastfeeding, in between sessions, I had this crazy idea to build a group therapy practice, one that was centered in BIPOC people, that specialized in the modalities that I love, which are EMDR and brain spotting. And it was hard, and it was a lot. There was so much I didn't know, again, about building a business solo is one thing, and then building, a business where you have, folks working for you is a whole nother thing. And I think now when I think about it, the trauma of everything, happening around me really triggered this fear of perhaps losing everything, losing, what could be, again, this idea of, community, this belonging. Because if you've known me for a long time, you'll know that a lot of my story, my personal story, has a lot of grief and loss along the way. And I know for me that becoming a mom in the pandemic, for better or for worse, again, triggered that fear and loss in me. And so I floored it through what felt like building this practice in the first few years. It's a blur. I don't even remember it. And, I also wasn't sleeping like a normal human because I had a little one. And my mental health really suffered. Really suffered. It was the first time in my life I had experienced true anxiety, true depression. I think I did when I was a kid, but I didn't really have the words for it. So now as a mental health professional myself, I was able to see, the toll that the global trauma, right, took on me, right? Holding the experience of, my clients who I was treating, right? Holding those stories, again, holding my own story while learning how to be a mom and all of that. It started to become too much. I had to really start investing in my own mental health and my own self-care the way that I would so lovingly encourage my clients and my loved ones around me. And I did it. I did a lot of my own EMDR therapy, a lot of my own intensive therapy, my own brain spotting. It took a lot in me to ask for help. And thankfully for me, I have an incredible husband. I have a beautiful set of core friends and family members that really carried me through this difficult part of my life. And now here we are 5 years later, and we're still doing the hard work, still doing the incredible work in the midst of, again, more large-scale trauma, more grief. And it feels more necessary than ever now. And I think back and I can't imagine doing this kind of work without the incredible humans along the way, without the amazing humans on my team. And being a part of our clients' healing journeys, knowing that their healing will be a part of this ripple effect that'll help touch, the lives of those around them. And we think of this as community care, not only taking care of each other, but taking care of ourselves. Now, 5 years later, my daughter is 5. She's amazing. I have my number one support person and my husband, and they keep me going. They keep me going, as do my ancestors. I think of them often now, so much more than I have before. Empowerment Therapy Center taught me about my own internalized resilience, and that taking care of myself is truly the most sustainable form of resistance, and the power of community and community healing. 5 years into this, it's wild. I still can't believe it sometimes. I feel like little Vanessa again, that little girl who all she wanted to do was just be cool and belong and be a part of something, right? That she created this community, that I created this community, and I couldn't be more grateful. It's an honor to do this work alongside so many amazing humans that are aligned with the same mission, that understand that mental health care is collective care. And I can't wait to see what's in store for us the next 5 years and beyond.